What is the deception and problem the bankers have created for us today? Because President Trump, with loyal factions of the military backing him, are fighting and methodically dismantling the systems that the globalists have had in place for over 100 years. And in parentheses, it says to control, manipulate, and make us do their will through our sweat labor. How have these bloodline wizards from the city of London responded? Through lies, impeachment, the media, riots, taking down the economy, and every other way they know how, they have tried to neutralize what our president and the patriots around him are doing. Instead of just one or two bad people, we've seen many infiltrators who have been embedded in the administration around this president. In some cases, these conspirators were planted there decades ago with a plan to be available at any critical moment needed. They are there to say just the right thing in the administration's ear to make the timely, wrong recommendation, steering us right back into slavery. They are saboteurs standing by to take any position where they might be needed to shortstop whatever the president and the patriot allies might do to regain control of our country, in order for them to retake the ship of state's helm. The patriots' battle happening right this second in our country and the world is the result of long planning. It's exactly like their efforts with the Titanic, which took many years of strategizing, all the way from boat design to the accident that, by design, didn't have enough lifeboats or the ability to launch them readily. When tragedy struck as intended, the doomed were given no way to efficiently disembark all the passengers. It appeared to be mere insanity to design a ship with an inadequate number of lifeboats, but it was part of their plan that has much in common with today's plandemic. At the time of the Titanic's sinking, headlines worldwide had everyone wanting to know who was dead or living, who made it and who didn't. It dominated the press for weeks, and hearings followed that lasted years, trying to get to the bottom of who was behind what and how did certain failures develop, just as the aspects of our current pandemic were intrinsically designed and working together towards an international catastrophic conclusion. Every time on the ship's clocks was in dispute where they set to New York, London, or North Atlantic on time. Part of the reason for questions about where the Titanic lay on the ocean floor, why it took so long to find it, was because its exact location was muddled from confusion over the collision time, making it hard to decipher where the boat was in relation to these other ships in the area at the time. And by the way, while the Titanic, in parentheses Olympic, was sailing full speed through a known field of icebergs, other ships were rightly anchored. Nobody else was sailing anywhere in those dangerous waters. In order to bait people into some level of confidence in his abilities, the man piloting that ship was said to be one of the best safety-minded captains in the world. They claimed Edward John Smith was an admiral's admiral, highly regarded, just like that unsinkable ship. But Smith was Jesuit, and at the end of the day, who controls those bankers? It is Jesuit governing these bloodline families. And by the way, pointing the Jesuit army of bankers is not an anti-Catholic statement, because there is a component of that organization that is not godly. Take it for what you will, but look at the Pope's audience hall and tell me that is not a serpent's head. inside and out. Tell me that that's okay and acceptable. Once again, look at all those on the Federal Reserve Board. Is it not Jewish men and women controlling that operation? It's the army of the Roman Catholic Church, the Jesuits. It's Godfather 3. And the big deal isn't actually happening in New York at the Fed. It's at the Vatican Bank in Rome. The hybridized Jesuit Canaanite minds controlling their hidden hands operate through the City of London banks and the Vatican Bank, each playing their role in the Fed manipulation of the money supply, thereby leveraging the Federal Reserve System around the world. With that, they remotely manipulate all the economies of the world. Every church and other large group has infiltrators at this point in time. And going back in history, even priests in the Temple of Jerusalem were bending a knee to face their rising sun, their god, Horus. And at the same time, they stuck their asses in the face of God's seat, which was, of course, right there, also in the inner temple. Ezekiel was taken by the messenger of God to see all that wickedness inside the temple grounds, as well as a woman outside the gate on the north side of the temple, who was weeping for Tammuz, Tammuz, not sure if I pronounced that right, who was the husband of Ishtar. Ishtar was the Babylonian goddess, also known as moon's or as the moon's priestess. It is not just the world's governments that have been captured, it's our religious institutions also, nearly all of them. People don't understand the globalists are actually a religious operation. At first, this seems like a crazy idea, but the Green Movement, with their pagan Mother Earth Gaia goddess worship, proves the point. It's worth noting that the devil is often referred to as the Green Man because he camouflaged himself among the leaves in the Garden of Eden. For you skeptics, take a look at the layout of Washington, D.C. It is every bit as much a religious city as the Vatican. And at the center of D.C. is the most important and prominent religious symbol for this Babylonian sex cult, this Ishtar, Isis, Osiris, and Horus sex cult. You know, I've talked about this stuff like for years about how the government is just the world's biggest religion and people worship the government the same way the Christians worship Jesus, the same way the Catholics worship the Mary, how the Christians sing praise songs, and how the people in the United States, they sing praise songs to their government. They sing the Star-Spangled Banner. They pledge their allegiance. They wave flags. They vote. They pay taxes. Those are just religious rituals that they practice. There's the same kind of rituals the Christians and the Catholics and the Mormons and all these other religions practice. They just changed up the words a little bit, but it's the same concept. It's all just a bunch of religious brainwashing. All right, let's continue. Assuming we're all adults here, the Washington Monument is from their symbology, representing Osiris's missing penis, which Isis fashioned out of a stone to have sex with Osiris's corpse. The legend says that Osiris was so evil that Set, his own brother, killed him, chopped the body into 14 pieces, and then scattered them across the earth. Isis was Osiris and Set's mother. When she discovered that one son murdered the other, she raced out and found all but one piece of Osiris's parted carcass, after which she reassembled those 13 of the original 14, but Isis couldn't find his penis, and didn't want him to die. So, on the 17th day of the month, she fashioned a dildo in its place, and this is why the occult number of Osiris is 17. Though it could have been 14 or 13 for the number of pieces, today's occult fixation on 17 is about the death and resurrection day of Osiris, which is a mirror of Jesus' death and resurrection that we Christians celebrate every year. Why is this parallel important? It's because our symbol of Jesus' resurrection is the cross, while theirs is an erect penis. And they place it in front of us all over the world as a big F-U to those not part of their evil. The story says Isis crafted a penis from large stone and placed that phallus on the dead corpse of her son Osiris. Isis then had sex with her son's corpse. And again, this is according to legend, which is a part of these people's religion. It is not your or my religion, so don't tell me you don't believe this. Wake up. I'm telling you what they believe. Pay attention, because you'll learn some things about how they actually think. I don't care what you think. That doesn't matter. I'm letting you know why they do what they do, why they think what they think, and what they believe. As I first wrote decades ago, belief is the driver of action, and their actions are based on their beliefs. They have certain ritual number values, symbology, and celestial alignments that are driving their dark faith. Through the open practice of these beliefs and exercises, they think they gain power from the spirit realm. By practicing this religion in plain sight and doing these religious acts and ceremonies, they obtain actual, real, and tangible results in the physical realm. So, Isis utilized this penis phallus that was fashioned from stone, which Hollywood intentionally mimics with its Oscar award ceremony involving that stylized penis statue. She then had sex with she then had sex with the dead corpse of her son and then claimed to have become pregnant from the act, which produced a child we know as Horus, another of their gods. Horus is the sun god, the god of the new day, which they see as the 8th day. For 6 days God labored, and on the 7th day he rested. Then came the 8th, the new day. The 8th day is their beginning for a new week, and Horus represents that week. According to them, we are now in this quote-unquote new age Babylonian era and millennial week, the start of a new 1,000-year period. Remember, a day with the Lord is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is as a day. In their religion, this new day, the 8th day on the Babylonian schedule, puts us right at the beginning of their age of Aquarius, as the celestial alignments progress through a 25,000-year trek across the zodiacs. As part of their religion, they're looking forward to what they perceive as their blessings to materialize from this new day. And they anticipate that part of those benefits will be their ability to eliminate all of those who aren't of their Cain bloodlines, to eliminate any artifact of Adam that isn't commingled with the seed of Cain. You see, they believe that when Cain murdered his brother Abel, Cain wasn't done killing. Adam was going to be next. That's what Cain's father, the devil, wanted him to do. Why is that? If Cain eliminated Adam, the only way God could continue to be God would be to bless the offspring of Eve through her only son remaining, which of course would have been Cain at the time. They would be the only two humans left on the planet. God had promised Adam that the earth and all that was in it would be an inheritance to Adam's offspring forever. And God gave that gift to Adam with no preconditions. Adam did nothing to be given the earth. God gave it to him, and his descendants as a perpetual inheritance, period. If Adam had died by Cain's hand right after Abel, leaving no other male children, the only way that humanity could survive would be the mating of Eve and her hybrid son Cain. God himself would be trapped in a catch-22. In order to bless Adam's seed as God promised Adam, he would have to also bless Satan's serpent seed through the Cain line. On the other hand, if God does so, his curse on Satan is broken, which means that God is not able to command a curse and make it stick. And it doesn't matter that you don't it doesn't matter that you don't clearly see this in the Bible or any other holy works. Listen, I'm telling you what they believe, which comes to them directly from the father of lies, Satan. They believe his lies. So, you don't have to accept what I will tell you next, which comes from their version of history. Although, I personally think it probably happened, my opinion doesn't matter here. What I think is irrelevant and unimportant. They believe they are descendants of Cain, Cain line kings who are destined to inherit the earth. This fiction is what they've been given by their father, the father of lies, who is Lucifer, Satan, the devil, Samuel, and any of 1,000 other names. The serpent is another name he goes by. Serpents come from the reptilian line of species, which just happens to parallel our world's propagandized idea that aliens are reptilian. So if Lucifer isn't a human, and if he was able to beguile Eve so that the two of them fathered Cain, after which Eve taught Adam the trick, and she also conceived Adam's child, Abel. Then, oh wait, sorry, I lost my spot here. Let me read that again. Okay, so, after which Eve taught Adam the trick, and she also conceived Adam's child Abel, that would make the two boys twins from two different fathers in just one birth cycle. Then we'd really be looking at a situation where the same fight that's been going on since Genesis is still being fought today. And it continues to be about which bloodline inherits the earth. And as long as there is even one direct descendant from Adam alive, these monarchical and monetary Cain bloodlines still believe that person must be killed so that only hybrid descendants of Eve can inherit the earth. Lucifer, Satan, the devil, or whatever you want to call him, is then an equal with God, because in order to remain God, he had to bless that which he had cursed. Then Satan would not be less than a god. He'd be the same as God on an equal level. What was Lucifer's sin to begin with? It wasn't that he wanted to be greater than God. Instead, he sought to be God's equal. Today, Satan's goal remains unchanged from the moment he was cast out from heaven. His goal has been to make himself God's co-equal, bringing himself up and taking God down. Now you know the Luciferian plot and plan. It doesn't matter if it can't happen. The idea is evil, twisted, chaotic, and the very definition of insanity. Yet so many people want to argue against the threat of that information by just dismissing it as unworkable because certain scriptures tell us it can't happen. They use that truth to dismiss any discussion or action needed. They say, hey, God wins in the end, and Jesus is coming back to wipe them out. I've talked about that too, about how a lot of these Christians, they just become these passive, lazy people that don't take action because they just keep saying, oh, don't worry, Jesus is going to come back and save everything, and it's going to be okay. And then they passively sit there and let all their freedoms get taken away. Kind of the same thing that happened with this whole psyop with QAnon and Donald Trump. Oh, just trust the plan. Trust the plan. It's going to be okay. Just trust the plan. While a bunch of people just sit there passively. They've deified Donald Trump and the whole QAnon movement the same way the Christians deified Jesus. Oh, just trust the plan. Oh, don't worry, Jesus is coming back. Creates a bunch of passive cop-outs that let everyone's freedoms get taken away. Just my opinion. All right, let's continue. But those sentiments are missing the point. The Satanists have an insane mission, which was deranged from the moment it came into the devil's mind. No one can logically explain it. Asking me or anyone else to make sense out of evil is one of the stupidest requests possible. Hell is a place where reason does not exist. There is no logic behind insanity, confusion, and chaos. The fact that anyone would even pose this question indicates that he or she hasn't really thought it through. God is watching. He allows evil for a reason, but will not allow evil to win in the end. It is against the very nature of the Almighty. The Canaanite weeds will be pulled and burned in the end time harvest. Getting back to our modern day situation with these evil masters who seek to take over and control the world. They've been working their scheme for a very long time, and it includes the intent to wipe out much of the Earth's population. What message did they present to us on the gigantic slabs of granite that they erected in 1980, their Georgia Guidestones? It's their list of aspirations, including the world's population being brought down to their ideal number of only 500 million. Well, there are over 7 billion of us on Earth now, so you do the math. That means 13 of every 14 people alive on our planet right now would need to die in order for them to accomplish that sinister goal. How could they do it? Probably in just a few generations. One way would be to slowly implement population controls by deciding who's worthy of children. They'd pick the winners and losers. Of course, the chosen would come from only the purest of their bloodlines. Put yourself in their red shoes. They will willingly wait for us to die out naturally. These people and their fathers, and their father Satan himself, can't wait for normal attrition because their nature is as murderers that want blood sacrifices. Satan is only the father of lies, but also the father of murder, which explains how these evil worshippers of Lucifer think. Seeking a good harvest or other favor from their God, they willingly sacrifice children and even babies to him. Can you imagine that? People rightly get upset when looking at the evil perpetuated by Catholic priests and their leadership. But along with that, there's another aspect of world religions that is upsetting. We also need to speak against the action of certain Jewish factions. Yet, when we do call out the corruption of either, some tell us, hey, you can't say that. But I want to let them know that one of the most damnable, depraved nations on this planet during the Old Testament times was the nation of Israel. Do today's people know that? And is it true? How did this happen? And could that be, how could that be? And what am I talking about? Is my claim sacrilege? No, it's biblical. All right, we're going to take a break there and continue in another upload. Let me know what you think in the comments.